Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Theodore, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Theodore and George were just finishing bringing a big cargo ship into the harbor.
Take her to dock 11,
called Pearl, the pilot boat. Pearl's job was to lead the way safely through the harbor. As soon as the tugs began to turn towards the dock with the ship, Pearl floated off to help Emily and Theodore, who were just taking out another ship. "You're really busy," Theodore called to Pearl.
I'm glad we're getting a new pilot boat today,
replied Pearl.
Ah, so there's a new pilot boat arriving in the harbor. Can't imagine how crowded things are going to be with 3 pilot boats running around helping out the tugs. But hey, the more the merrier to help out, I guess. And this excited Theodore, as we know he loves to meet new boats and ships. And when he was eventually finished with his work, he hurried off to meet the new pilot.
Say, what's the big rush?
It was Benjamin Bridge. Benjamin always likes to keep a close watch on everything that's going on below in the harbor.
Oh, hello, Benjamin,
said Theodore, barely slowing down.
there's a new pilot boat arriving. A what?
Said Benjamin.
Couldn't quite hear you, Theodore.
Where's Theodore going? Hank was just puttering along.
Well, I heard some kind of pilot is arriving,
replied Benjamin in his gossipy way. A pilot? Repeated Hank. We already have a pilot. And she never hides.
Maybe Theodore said
Philip, one of the fairy twins.
pirate.
Finished Fillmore, the other fairy twin.
A pirate is hiding in the harbor,
announced Benjamin. Benjamin was always happiest when he had a good story to report, even if he didn't know if it was true. A pirate in the harbor? Repeated Hank. He decided he had better find out about that.
Okay, a couple of things. 1, love the overhead shots they use for Theodore and Hank. Those are so uniquely shot. When's the last time we saw some overhead footage? Back in season 1? So that's kind of cool. Second, I never pictured Benjamin to be the gossipy type. I thought Theodore was pretty clear when he said pilot. How that was misinterpreted as pirate is beyond me. And with this news floating around, Hank wanted to be doubly sure. Of course, the dumbest choice was to ask Donald Duck, as his only words are, uh-huh. So clearly that's just all the proof you need, right, Hank? Well, okay then. Oh, this is not going to end well. Anyway, around the same time, Theodore finally found the new pilot and happily introduced himself.
Hello, he called. My name is Theodore. Welcome to the big harbor. Hello, I'm Petra, said a very small voice. Is everything all right? Asked Theodore. Oh, yes. It's just, well... Petra was having trouble saying the words. But Theodore seemed like such a friendly boat. This is my first pilot job. I really wanted to be a tugboat. Oh, we have lots of tugboats here, but we really need a new pilot. You do? Sure, said Theodore. And you'll really like living here. This is the friendliest harbor anywhere.
So the new pilot boat is Petra? Wait a minute. Petra was already an introduced character since season 1. Why are they reintroducing her here towards the ending of season 3? Well, clearly this is a huge continuity issue. Whose brilliant idea was it to do the whole switcheroo on the episode order again? Did they maybe write this for the first season and then mysteriously filmed it for this one? I don't know, some things are just not adding up here. But anyway, good-hearted Theodore could see Petra was shy for her first day and happily took her along, introducing her to everybody. Meanwhile, our funny goofball Hank was busy looking for the pirate.
No pirates here, said Hank softly. And no pirates there.
Hank? Yikes!
Hank nearly jumped out of his bumpers. Oh, George, it's you,
Of course it's me.
said George.
What are you doing, Hank?
I'm looking for that pirate who's hiding in the harbor. Well, George knew that Hank sometimes made up stories, and this certainly sounded like one of them.
There are no pirates here,
He snorted.
It's true,
Said Hank.
Theodore said so.
George thought to himself. Theodore never makes up stories,
Well, maybe we better have a look.
he said at last.
Just what I was doing, looking for pirates.
I always love the little jump the tugboats do when they're frightened. I think it really adds more to the emotion of the characters themselves. I also wonder how they were able to pull off such a neat trick. Similar tactics I've noticed have been done in something like the later model series of Thomas. Do they jerk the controls forward or backward a certain way, or is it just a completely different method? Gosh, I wish I could find out. Anyhow, George was not about to believe in another made-up Hank story. Look back to all the fib stories he told way back in the mermaid episode. No one took him seriously, even though the whole mermaid thing was partially true. This story, however, is far more sillier, and truthfully, it wasn't all Hank who came up with this. It was technically Benjamin. Let's not forget that. Either way, they needed answers.
A pirate, Hank was telling everyone.
Hiding right here in the harbor.
But we don't know why he's here.
Said George. Well, technically speaking, said Voduk, pirates steal smaller boats.
Like tugboats?
Hank chattered.
Where's Theodore?
Said Emily suddenly.
I haven't seen him around all morning.
Replied Voduk.
Maybe the pirates got him. Northumberland, have you seen Theodore?
Called Emily.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I saw him. Oh, I saw him taking that pilot around the harbor.
Yawned Northumberland.
Did Northumberland say he saw Theodore with the pirate?
Voduk whispered to Emily.
Voduk said the pirate is taking Theodore somewhere.
Emily whispered to Hank.
Emily said the pirate is taking Theodore out of the harbor.
Hank whispered to George.
We have to capture the pirate.
Said George right away. And all the tugs took off to save Theodore from the pirate.
Okay, now this is just getting out of control. It was clearly said that Theodore was seen with this pirate. So how did that just explode into the pirate taking Theodore somewhere to completely out of the harbor now? Are the tugs really that hard of hearing? Now this fiasco is entirely blown out of proportion, and now they're off to capture this pirate. Which, in actuality, wouldn't this be more suited for Constance as she deals in these kinds of situations? What the tugs are doing is dangerous, 'cause how do they know if this pirate is a real dangerous threat? Even though we know she isn't, but you get my point. Like I said before, this isn't going to end well. So while the bigger tugs went to confront this pirate, Hank was doing his own solo search until he was startled by a familiar voice. Sure enough, it was Theodore, who explained to Hank that he had been with the new pilot all day, and then Hank tried to explain how the pirate story came to be.
And then the fairy twins said,
Well, Donald said it was true, right, Donald?
uh-huh. And I told George, and he told everyone about the pirate. Hank was getting dizzy from trying to explain how the story had changed so much. And Theodore was feeling a little dizzy himself.
Hank,
He said, I told Benjamin a new pilot boat was arriving. Petra, she's really very nice. Well, as soon as Hank heard this, he felt much better.
a pilot,
He shouted.
not a pirate. Oh, that's great.
Uh-oh. What's the matter, Hank?
I think everyone's on their way to capture her.
Uh-oh, said Theodore.
Can I just say that I love this conversation between Hank and Theodore? It tries so hard to be serious, but ends up being funny with Hank's fumbling of the story. And I must correct again, it wasn't all Hank who started this whole thing. The only thing I can actually say was that the fairy twins threw the pirate suggestion out there, which gave Benjamin the opportunity to make up the pirate story. The fairies unintentionally fueled the fire, and Benjamin took it however he wanted to hear it, which then led to Hank asking Donald, and the story blew up even more when the other tugs got involved. So let's stop pretending that Hank is the troublemaker in all of this. We all know who the real culprit is. And now that the story was finally cleared up, Theodore and Hank had to stop the others from capturing poor Petra.
Theodore, shouted Foduck. It's you. But we thought, began George. Everyone was sure, continued Emily. We all heard, concluded Foduck. A pirate got you. I would like all of you to meet a new friend of mine, said Theodore, turning towards Petra. The new pilot in the big harbor. Oh, said the tugs. Oh, repeated Hank. And then everyone had a very good laugh. There's Pearl, Theodore said to Petra. She's a pilot, too. I didn't know there was another pilot in the harbor. Did Petra say there's another pirate in the harbor? Said Hank. Hank! Shouted the tugs. Oh, said Hank. Well, the tugs had another good laugh. Petra, I think you'll have lots of fun here, smiled Theodore.
And that concludes Theodore and the Pirate. Okay, well, this is what I like to call the elephant in the room episode. We all know it by this story's continuity error. At this point in time, Petra was already well introduced in the series and has made several appearances throughout the course of the show. So I don't get why all of a sudden she just comes out of nowhere here. Clearly this is written out to be a Season 1 story, but somehow ended up being filmed for Season 3. Hey, you know something? Thomas is guilty of doing that too, on several different occasions. Aside from all the issues, is this a bad story? No, not at all. Which is ironic, because this episode has a very similar feel to that of Thomas and the Rumors, and a majority of people know that I don't like that episode. In a very similar way, the pirate story explodes all over the harbor and is constantly changing until everything is eventually cleared up. Normally, I'd be very agitated with this kind of story, as this is taken up on a much grandiosilier scale than in comparison to the Thomas version. However, compared to Rumors, which there's nothing I find funny about it, I can actually get a few chuckles here and there with this episode. And it's not like the tugs came off as super rude to anyone about what they heard. All they did was act out of fear, which can make people do some crazy things. Whereas the engines were just being rude right off the bat after what they were told, and the more they were overthinking, the ruder they became. That's just something I cannot forgive. So that's why I'm giving this episode a slap on the wrist for its important moral. That no matter what amount of news is out in the open, you can't always believe what you hear, depending on the person it comes from. And that it's always a good idea to get your facts straight before you go jumping to any conclusions. On top of that, the music was just as calm as ever in some spots, and we did hear a few newer ditties, like when Hank searches for the pirate, or when the tugs rush off to find Theodore. So overall, while this episode does have its noticeable errors, I still think it's worth checking out just for the laughs. Next episode is Foduck's Hurt Feelings.